Welcome to Simple English Speak. Teddy was only 2 months old when Dina brought him home. A playful, energetic, and fearless puppy. Nothing could stop him. Dina, a calm, patient, and kind-hearted girl, embraced him and gave him a home. She had grown up in the shadow of her parents' divorce, with no one to shower with her unconditional love. But Teddy was different. Teddy was like a real family member, a constant companion and the best friend who would never leave her side. Dina and Teddy's life was filled with joyful and unforgettable moments. Every morning, Teddy would accompany Dina to the park, running through the grass and playing with other dogs. When Dina read a book, Teddy would lie beside her, sometimes touching the pages with his tiny snout as if he too were immersed in the story. Some days, Dina would take him on short trips. By the seaside, Teddy would excitedly run across the sand, wagging his tail, his ears flapping in the wind. On cold winter nights, they would sit by the heater. Dina with a warm cup of tea and a blanket over her legs, and Teddy resting his head on her lap. For the first time in her life, Dina felt she was not alone. But that day, the 4th of February, everything changed. Dina left home early in the morning. Teddy, as always, watched her from the window, wagging his tail, waiting for her return. But night fell, and Dina did not come back. At first, Teddy thought she was just late, but another day passed, and still there was no sign of her. He could no longer stay still. Something was wrong. Teddy searched for clues about Dina. He sniffed her favorite shirt and followed the path she had taken that morning. He wandered through alleys and streets, but there was no trace of her. Tired and confused, he returned home at night. But no, he couldn't just sit and wait. He had to do something. He had to find someone who could help. Teddy grabbed one of Dina's shirts and ran to the police station. He barked at every officer passing by, showing them the clothing, but no one paid attention. No one understood his language. Teddy did not give up. He spent days in front of the police station. Sometimes he found food in trash cans. Sometimes kind passers-by threw him scraps. But no one realized that this loyal dog was searching for his owner. One day, however, a newly arrived officer named Nora noticed the persistent dog. She saw Teddy's determination, the way he clung to the shirt. Curious, she began to investigate. When she reviewed the case files, she discovered that Dina's workplace had reported her absence. But since she had no family to worry about her case had not been taken seriously. Everyone had assumed she had gone on a trip or left her job for unknown reasons. Nora decided to help. She took Teddy home, giving him food and a warm place to stay. But she still had not given up. Whenever she had time, she searched for Dina. Days and months passed, but no trace of her was found. Then one day, a report reached Nora. A young woman's body had been discovered on the outskirts of a forest. Nora rushed to the scene. The body was decayed, unrecognizable. Something inside her screamed that this wasn't Dina. But when one of the officers pulled a silver ring from the dirt, Nora froze. Inside the ring, the name Dina was engraved. She held her breath. Time seemed to stop. Tears welled up in her eyes. It was Dina. All her hopes, all her efforts had led to this moment. Dina was laid to rest. Nora took Teddy to the funeral. Teddy sat silently by the grave, lowering his head as if he knew he would never hear Dina's voice again. Nora held Teddy in her arms and took one last look at Dina's grave. She knew that this loyal dog had lost his whole world, but life had to go on. Despite the sorrow in Teddy's eyes, Nora decided to take care of him. Teddy went through difficult days. Every night, he sat by the door, hoping that it would open and Dina would return. But Nora patiently stayed by his side. She brought him food, took him to the park, and even sometimes slept next to him so he wouldn't feel alone. Teddy never forgot his love for Dina, but gradually he learned that life still continued. Every week, Nora and Teddy visited the cemetery. Teddy would sit by the gravestone, lower his head, and remain silent for a while, as if he was still speaking to Dina, reliving their memories, searching for her scent in the wind. But as time passed, these visits became less frequent. Teddy was no longer as eager to go to the cemetery, but whenever he did, a deep sadness still lingered in his eyes. Nora could never replace Dina in Teddy's heart. Though she loved him and Teddy slowly grew fond of her, the memories of Dina always remained in a corner of his soul. Still, Teddy learned to live again, to run, play, and love Nora, but not in the same way. No one could ever be like Dina. And perhaps that was the true meaning of love, to keep someone in your heart, even when they are no longer by your side. The end. Playful, full of fun and energy. Example: the puppy was very playful, running around the house all day. Embraced to hug or accept something wholeheartedly. Example: Dina embraced Teddy with love when she first brought him home. Unforgettable, impossible to forget. Example: the moments spent with a loved one are always unforgettable. To go along with someone. Example: Teddy would accompany Dina to the park every morning. Immerse: to become completely involved in something. Example: Teddy seemed to be immersed in the story Dina was reading, excitedly with enthusiasm and eagerness. Example: Teddy ran excitedly across the beach, wagging his tail. Trace a sign of something that has existed or happened, to find something. Example: Teddy searched for any trace of Dina, but found nothing. Persistent, continuing despite difficulties. Example: the persistent dog never gave up on finding his owner. Determined to decide or establish something. Example: Nora was determined to help Teddy find Dina. Engraved: to carve or inscribe something permanently. Example: Dina's name was engraved in a silver ring. Loyal, showing constant support and faithfulness. Example: Teddy was a loyal companion who never left Dina's side. Sorrow, deep sadness. Example: there was deep sorrow in Teddy's eyes after losing Dina. Cemetery: a place where people are buried. Example: Nora and Teddy visited the cemetery every week. Relived: to experience something again in one's mind. Example: Teddy would sit by Dina's grave and relive their memories. Linger: to stay somewhere longer than expected. Example: a deep sadness still lingered in Teddy's eyes.